What if extinction isn't forever? From volcanic cliffs to mist-covered jungles, cameras have started capturing something no scientist expected: animals long declared extinct walking, crawling, and gliding back into view. Some vanished for over a century. Others hadn't been seen since the dinosaurs. But they weren't gone, just hiding. These are the species that fooled science until the lens caught them alive. La Palma giant lizard, Galotia awaritae. For over 500 years, scientists believed the La Palma giant lizard was nothing more than fossilized history. Native to the Canary Islands, this massive reptile, measuring nearly half a meter in length, was presumed extinct since the time of the Spanish conquest. Its reappearance in the wild in the year 2002 wasn't just unexpected, it was surreal. A local biologist, scouting remote cliff areas of La Palma Island, stumbled upon a living specimen sunning itself on a volcanic ledge. For a species that supposedly vanished in the 16th century, its survival defied logic. It had no recent recorded sightings, no bones dug from shallow graves, and no whispers among locals. And yet, there it was. What makes this story even wilder? Theories began circulating that these lizards had been hiding in isolated lava tubes or cliffside caves, shielded by sheer terrain no human regularly explored. Some scientists speculated that small populations managed to survive by shifting their diet and shrinking their activity windows to avoid predators. One theory even suggests their dwindled numbers saved them from detection. The coelacanth. For more than 66 million years, the coelacanth was believed to be extinct, wiped out alongside the dinosaurs, and preserved only as fossils in museum drawers. Scientists used it as a textbook example of evolutionary failure, a primitive fish that simply could not survive modern oceans. Then, in 1938, everything collapsed. A South African museum curator named Marjorie Courtney Latimer opened a fisherman's net and found a living coelacanth staring back at her. Cameras later confirmed it wasn't a fluke. This fish, thought gone since prehistoric times, was very much alive. What stunned scientists even more was how little it had changed. The coelacanth still had lobed fins resembling early limbs, an oil-filled swim bladder instead of a modern one, and a hinged skull that opens wider than any other known fish. Some researchers nicknamed it a living fossil, but others pushed back, arguing it wasn't frozen in time, just perfectly adapted to deep, dark waters humans rarely explored. One unsettling theory suggests coelacanths survived because they live where we almost never look, lurking hundreds of meters below the surface in underwater caves. Another proposes they avoided extinction by reproducing incredibly slowly, staying invisible rather than dominant. Cuban solenodon. For over 70 years, the Cuban solenodon was considered extinct. This strange, shrew-like mammal with a long snout and venomous bite had vanished from the radar since the late 1940s. It wasn't until 2003 that scientists captured it alive, on camera and in hand, proving it had survived in the dense mountainous forests of eastern Cuba. But this wasn't just any rediscovery. It was the return of one of Earth's most bizarre survivors. The solenodon's most shocking feature? It delivers venom through grooves in its bottom incisors, one of only a handful of mammals capable of injecting venom like a snake. Its awkward, stumbling walk is due to a unique ball-and-socket ankle joint, which allows its feet to twist in almost any direction, making it nearly impossible to track. Some researchers suggest this oddity helped it remain undetected for so long. Local farmers, however, had whispered about it for decades, describing rat ghosts with needle teeth hiding under leaves, stories scientists once dismissed. After it was filmed sniffing around fallen palm leaves under moonlight, the question quickly became, how many are left? Was it the last of its kind, or just one of many, watching from the undergrowth as humans assumed them dead? Lord Howe Island stick insect. Nicknamed the tree lobster for its oversized armored body, the Lord Howe Island stick insect was thought to be extinct since the early 1920s. When a ship ran aground off Lord Howe Island, it accidentally unleashed black rats onto the ecosystem, wiping out countless native species, including this nearly 6-inch-long insect. For nearly 80 years, no one reported a single sighting. It was officially declared extinct. But then, in 2001, a pair of Australian scientists scaled the forbidding cliffs of Ball's Pyramid, a jagged, isolated rock spire 23 kilometers from Lord Howe, and discovered something that shattered belief. Underneath a single bush, in the crevice of a rocky slope, they found live stick insects. Not one or two, but 24 of them clinging to the rocks in near total darkness. Somehow, a small population had crossed the ocean, or drifted on debris after the rat invasion. Theories suggest seabirds may have carried their eggs in droppings, or that a few lucky insects floated away on storm-tossed branches. What's astonishing is how they changed. Adults on Ball's Pyramid became darker, more nocturnal, and bulkier than museum specimens. Javan elephant. For decades, the Javan elephant was considered a ghost of history, extinct, wiped out centuries ago from the Indonesian island of Java due to hunting, habitat loss, and colonial expansion. But then came a theory so bold it bordered on legend, that a hidden population had survived in plain sight. Not on Java, but in Borneo. In recent years, motion-triggered cameras deep within Borneo's jungles revealed elephants with curious features. Smaller stature, rounder skulls, and tamer behavior. They didn't match Borneo's known wild elephants. DNA testing later stunned scientists. These elephants weren't native. They shared strong genetic ties to the long-lost Javan elephant. How? According to one theory, ancient Javan rulers may have transported domesticated elephants to Borneo hundreds of years ago. Left in the forests, they adapted, reproduced, and vanished into legend, only to be rediscovered on camera centuries later. It wasn't extinction, it was relocation, wrapped in myth. Some researchers now argue that these elephants may hold clues to a deeper, undocumented history of animal trade in Southeast Asia, where species thought lost may simply be hiding under the wrong name. Wondiwoi tree kangaroo. The Wondiwoi tree kangaroo wasn't just presumed extinct, it was a biological mystery. First discovered in the 1930s in the remote Wondiwoi Mountains of Papua, it vanished almost immediately afterward. No photographs, no recordings, just a single specimen stored in a museum. For nearly 90 years, scientists assumed it had gone the way of other rainforest creatures, wiped out by deforestation or human encroachment. But in 2018, a British naturalist named Michael Smith embarked on an ambitious expedition into those near-impenetrable jungles, and came back with photographic proof. There it was, a thick-furred, golden-brown tree kangaroo clinging to branches high above, staring back with wide, startled eyes. Unlike its relatives in Australia, the Wondiwoi version had distinct curved claws, dense woolly fur, and a powerful climbing build. It was living in one of the steepest, least explored rainforest slopes on Earth, a place locals rarely entered. Some researchers believe it survived because it was forgotten. Others point to oral traditions from nearby tribes who spoke of ghost wallabies that lived in the trees, rarely seen and never hunted. Fernandina Island Galapagos tortoise. For over 100 years, the Fernandina Island Galapagos tortoise was a textbook extinction case. The volcanic terrain of Fernandina, one of the most remote and unforgiving islands in the Galapagos chain, was deemed too harsh to support such slow, land-bound giants. The last confirmed sighting of the species dated back to 1906, and despite decades of searching, no tortoise had been found since. Scientists assumed the lava fields had claimed them all. Then, in 2019, a single, breathtaking discovery changed everything. A female tortoise, later estimated to be over a century old, was spotted crawling across the black volcanic rocks, captured by a stunned expedition team. DNA later confirmed she was indeed part of the long-lost species Chelonoidus fantasticus. How had she survived for so long, alone, without being detected? Some experts suggest the tortoise adapted to the heat by sheltering in cool lava tubes and feeding on sparse cactus patches. Others believe there may still be a tiny, hidden population tucked into unexplored parts of the island. Alaotra grebe, Tachybaptis rufilavatus. The Alaotra grebe was declared extinct in 2010. Native only to Lake Alaotra in Madagascar, this small diving bird had been struggling for decades, caught between invasive fish species, habitat destruction, and rampant net fishing. By the time scientists officially gave up hope, the last confirmed photo was from '98, and surveys had failed to find any trace. But then something strange happened. In 2021, a group of local researchers analyzing drone footage from nearby wetlands noticed a small grebe with an unusually short wing structure, almost flightless, diving between reeds. Could it be? Subsequent field cameras caught more. Not many, but enough. The size, posture, and plumage matched the Alaotra grebe, down to the unique reddish neck. One theory is that a tiny, unrecorded subpopulation survived by shifting away from the main lake into connected marshes far less disturbed by human activity. Since the bird had poor flying ability, these areas might have been impossible to escape from, but also safe from fishing boats. Silver-backed chevrotain, Vietnamese mouse deer. For nearly 30 years, the silver-backed chevrotain, also called the Vietnamese mouse deer, was lost to science.
that has not been seen in 30 years. So this is actually pretty remarkable.
What?
Wow. This is a deer mouse.
That looks like some sort of marsupial.
Last seen in 1990, this rabbit-sized ungulate disappeared from view just as deforestation and poaching surged across Vietnam. With no sightings, no footage, and no new remains, it quietly slipped into presumed extinction. That is, until 2019, when a team of researchers working with local villagers placed motion-triggered cameras in the dry forests near Nha Trang. What the cameras recorded was both eerie and electrifying. There it was, tiny, trembling, and wide-eyed, moving delicately through the underbrush on pencil-thin legs. Its silvery back shimmered in the light. Over 500 camera trap images were collected in just a few months, proving not only that the species was alive, but that it may have been there all along, just hiding in vanishing patches of habitat. Local villagers had spoken of it for years, calling it the deer that is not a deer, but such accounts were often dismissed as folklore. Some believe the chevrotain survived by being nocturnal, painfully shy, and perfectly camouflaged. Others fear the rediscovery might be short-lived if conservation doesn't act fast. New Guinea singing dog. Declared extinct in the wild for decades, the New Guinea singing dog was once known only through a few captive specimens scattered in zoos. Its eerie, melodic howls, unlike any modern dogs, became legend among researchers. The animal had not been seen in its native highland habitat since the 1970s, leading experts to believe it had been wiped out by interbreeding or habitat encroachment. Then, in 2016, everything changed. A remote expedition into the misty Papuan highlands uncovered what many thought impossible: live, free-ranging wild dogs with the same high-pitched, haunting vocalizations. Trail cameras captured their ghost-like movements, and audio devices recorded those unmistakable harmonic howls echoing through the mountains. Later, DNA tests confirmed what scientists barely dared to hope. These weren't feral dogs. They were wild New Guinea singing dogs, genetically closer to the originals than even the captive populations. How had they survived unseen for so long? Their terrain offered one answer: rugged, isolated, and nearly inaccessible. Some believe these dogs remained undetected by avoiding any human contact entirely. Others suggest they may have been intentionally protected by local tribes who considered their songs sacred. Takahe, New Zealand flightless bird. When the last known takahe vanished in the late 1940s.
Today's journey is significant because takahe have come from some pretty dark times. They were thought to be extinct for about 100 years.
New Zealand mourned its extinction like the loss of a national treasure. This vibrant, flightless bird with its deep blue-green plumage and striking red beak was once widespread across the South Island. But introduced predators, especially stoats and cats, decimated its population. Scientists declared it extinct. Then in 1953, against all odds, a small team led by Dr. Jeffrey Orbell made a daring trek into the isolated Murchison Mountains and stumbled upon a bird that shouldn't have existed. There it was, a living takahe, waddling among the tussock grass, as shocked to see humans as they were to see it. Since then, cameras have confirmed not just its survival, but an entire hidden population nestled in the remote alpine valleys. Its rediscovery was so profound that the government launched one of the most ambitious conservation efforts in the world, relocating takahes to predator-free islands and intensively monitoring them. Fun fact, unlike its smaller cousin, the pukeko, the takahe evolved to abandon flight entirely, its wings now vestigial. Pygmy tarsier. For over 80 years, the pygmy tarsier was believed to have vanished forever. Native to the cloud forests of Sulawesi, Indonesia, this mouse-sized primate with oversized eyes and needle-sharp teeth hadn't been spotted alive since the 1920s. Many scientists accepted it had quietly slipped into extinction. But in 2008, a team of researchers hiking through the high-altitude mossy forests set live traps for rats and accidentally caught a living pygmy tarsier. What they found was astonishing. With fur the color of damp bark, eyes as large as marbles, and the ability to rotate its head nearly 180 degrees, the pygmy tarsier seemed more like a mythical creature than a living species. The team quickly fitted it with a tiny radio collar and released it, capturing the first ever footage of one in its natural habitat. Unlike other tarsiers, this one emitted high-pitched calls barely audible to human ears. Some researchers believe this ultrasonic communication helped it avoid detection for decades. Theories about its survival suggest that high-altitude isolation and nocturnal behavior allowed it to outlast logging, hunting, and even science itself. Ivory-billed woodpecker. Once called the Lord God bird for the shock people felt when they saw its massive wingspan and stark black and white plumage, the ivory-billed woodpecker was officially declared extinct, more than once. Native to the bottomland hardwood swamps of the southeastern United States, it was last widely confirmed in the 1940s, and many believed it fell victim to logging and habitat destruction. Yet rumors of sightings never stopped.
By the 1900s, it was already extremely rare, and by 1944, the last known ivory-billed woodpecker, a female in Louisiana, was gone.
For decades, locals and birders whispered of fleeting glimpses, strange calls, and blurry photos. Then, in 2004, a group of researchers announced a sighting in Arkansas, backed by a controversial video. It showed a large bird, fast-flying and distinctive, matching ivory-billed features. The footage sparked debate, but more recent evidence has reignited hope. In 2021, the National Aviary released drone videos and audio recordings from remote Louisiana swamps, showing silhouettes, wing beats, and calls strikingly similar to those of the ivory-billed woodpecker. Though still not universally accepted as conclusive, it's the closest we've come in nearly a century. Some believe the bird survived by shifting deeper into inaccessible swamplands, evading cameras and humans alike. Others say the sightings are hopeful illusions. Woolly flying squirrel. For more than 70 years, the woolly flying squirrel of Pakistan was considered extinct, more myth than mammal. Native to the high-altitude regions of the western Himalayas, this enormous glider, stretching over 3 feet in length, was last recorded in the 1940s. Then, for decades, silence. No sightings, no fur, no remains. It vanished from scientific records as quickly as it had appeared. But in 2004, everything changed when researchers exploring the Gurez Valley stumbled upon fresh droppings and gnawed pine cones, signs that something large and arboreal was active. Camera traps and local testimonies soon confirmed it. The woolly flying squirrel wasn't extinct. It had simply gone airborne, out of reach. With thick, wool-like fur, enormous eyes adapted for nocturnal vision, and a patagium, skin flaps that allow it to glide like a parachute, it could travel silently across rocky cliffs at night, making detection nearly impossible. Locals spoke of a ghost of the cliffs that screamed during moonless nights. Some researchers believe its survival was due to the extreme inaccessibility of its habitat: cold, wind-blasted cliffs at elevations above 10,000 feet. Others speculated adapted to avoid predators by being active only during the blackest hours of the night. Black-naped pheasant pigeon. For 140 years, the black-naped pheasant pigeon was a bird of shadows.
Black-naped pheasant pigeon, recently seen on a camera that researchers set up in a forest right there. That bird hasn't been seen in 140 years.
Spoken of in the past tense, filed under extinct since its last documented appearance in 1882. Native to Ferguson Island, a mountainous and remote part of Papua New Guinea, it became one of the most sought-after, lost species in the world. Expeditions searched for it for decades, always returning empty-handed. Then, in 2022, a hidden camera deep in the island's jungle captured something no one expected: a large ground bird with a puffed chest, striking red eyes, and that unmistakable black nape slowly strutting across the forest floor. The footage caused shockwaves in the birdwatching and conservation world. The species had not only survived, it had done so in one of the most rugged, unexplored ecosystems left on Earth. Locals had long referred to a bird they called owo, describing it exactly like the pheasant pigeon, but without proof, it remained folklore, until now. Some believe its extreme rarity is due to highly specialized habitat needs, combined with an aversion to human disturbance. Others suspect it was never truly rare, just masterfully quiet. Don't forget to subscribe and click the video on screen.